You didn't scroll past this video by accident. Right now, in this exact moment, something in you stopped. Your thumb froze. Your mind got quiet for half a second. And somewhere deep inside, a voice you've been ignoring for weeks, maybe months, whispered, "This one's for you." I need you to sit with that for a second. Because what if it's true? What if this isn't random? What if you didn't find this video? It found you. You've been carrying something. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's guilt that won't let go. Maybe it's a prayer you stopped praying because you got tired of feeling like God wasn't listening. Maybe it's a decision sitting on your chest right now, and you don't know which way to go. Maybe you're successful on the outside, but on the inside, you feel completely empty. Or maybe you're just tired of pretending you're okay. Tired of showing up to church with a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. Tired of scrolling through life waiting for something, anything, to feel real again. Here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. God does not waste moments. He does not waste your time. And he certainly did not waste this one. You are here, watching this, reading this, listening to this, because he wanted you here. Not by accident, not by algorithm, by appointment. But here's the part most people miss, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. Being sent here for a reason isn't just a comforting phrase to make you feel special. It's a confrontation. Because if God sent you here, that means he's asking something of you. He's not just showing up to comfort you. He's showing up to correct you, to wake you up, to interrupt the pattern you've been stuck in. So before you keep watching, ask yourself honestly, are you ready to hear what he might actually be saying? Because this isn't going to be one of those soft, feel-good videos that pats you on the back and lets you go back to sleep spiritually. This is going to dig. And by the end, you're either going to walk away different or you're going to walk away the same person, pretending you didn't hear it. Let's talk about the first reason God sent you here. He sent you here because you've been running from something you know you need to face. Think about it. Be honest with yourself right now. Is there a conversation you've been avoiding? A relationship you know isn't good for you, but you keep holding on to? A habit you keep promising God and yourself that you'll quit tomorrow? A sin that's become so familiar it doesn't even feel like sin anymore. It just feels like Tuesday. Here's the scenario. Picture someone, let's call her Sarah, who's been in a relationship for 2 years that she knows, deep down, is pulling her away from her faith. Every time she prays, she feels the tension. Every time she reads her Bible, a verse seems to jump off the page and stare right at her. But she keeps scrolling past it. She keeps telling herself, "I'll deal with it later." Sound familiar? Maybe not the exact situation, but the pattern, the avoiding, the postponing, the pretending you don't see what you clearly see. In the book of Jonah, God gave a direct assignment. Go to Nineveh. Simple enough, right? But Jonah ran. He got on a boat going the complete opposite direction. And I want you to notice something most people skip over. Jonah wasn't running from a bad thing. He was running from an assignment that felt too big, too uncomfortable, too inconvenient for the life he had already planned for himself. But it gets deeper. God didn't just let Jonah run. He sent a storm, not to punish him out of anger, but to wake him up, to interrupt him. Sometimes the storm in your life right now, that anxiety, that restlessness, that sense that something isn't right, isn't punishment. It's pursuit. God chasing you down because he refuses to let you drift into a life smaller than the one he has for you. This is spiritually dangerous territory. And here's why. The longer you run, the quieter God's voice starts to sound. Not because he stopped speaking, but because you stopped listening. Avoidance doesn't just delay obedience. It erodes your sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. Every time you ignore that nudge, it gets a little easier to ignore the next one. And one day, you wake up and you can't even hear him anymore. That should terrify you a little. It terrifies me. So what's the fix? Stop running today. Not next week. Not when things calm down. Today, name the thing you've been avoiding. Say it out loud if you have to. And take one small step toward it. One honest prayer. One hard conversation. One decision to walk away from what's been pulling you under. God isn't asking you to fix everything today. He's just asking you to stop running. But there's a second reason God sent you here, and this one might hit even harder. He sent you here because you've confused being busy for God with actually being close to God. Let me paint the picture. You serve on the worship team. You show up early to set up chairs. You lead a small group. You post scripture on your story every Sunday. From the outside, your spiritual life looks full. But when you're alone, really alone, no phone, no noise, no one watching, do you actually know how to sit with God? Or does silence make you uncomfortable because it exposes how distant you've actually become? This is where it becomes dangerous. Because busyness for God can become one of the most effective disguises for distance from God. You can serve tables and still miss his presence. You can sing every lyric with your hands raised and still walk out of church with a heart untouched. Martha understood this the hard way. She was in the kitchen, doing everything right, working herself into exhaustion trying to serve Jesus, while her sister Mary sat at his feet and simply listened. And when Martha complained, Jesus didn't say, "Good job, Martha, keep working." He said Mary had chosen the better thing. Pay attention to this part, because it's easy to miss. Jesus wasn't condemning service. He was exposing a heart that had substituted activity for intimacy. Sarah. No, wait. Let's call this one Daniel. Daniel does everything right on the outside. He tithes. He volunteers. He never misses a service. But he hasn't had a real, honest, unfiltered conversation with God in over a year. He talks about God constantly. He just doesn't talk to him. Why is this spiritually dangerous? Because it's the easiest deception to fall into and the hardest one to notice from the inside. You don't feel like you're backslidden because you're still doing so much. But doing things for God was never meant to replace knowing God. And one day, if this pattern continues, you risk becoming someone who knows a lot about God, but has quietly stopped knowing him at all. The fix isn't to quit serving. It's to add what's missing. Give God 10 unhurried minutes today. Not to ask for anything, not to recite a list. Just to sit in silence and let him meet you there. It'll feel awkward at first. That awkwardness is proof of how far the distance has grown. Push through it anyway. Now here's the third reason, and this one is quieter than the first two, but it might be the most common. God sent you here because you've been believing a lie about your identity, and it's been shaping every decision you make. This one is sneaky. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like exhaustion. It looks like never feeling like enough. Not spiritual enough. Not disciplined enough. Not good Christian enough. Maybe you carry shame from something you did years ago. And even though you've confessed it 100 times, you still introduce yourself to God with your head down, like He's still keeping score. Think of someone who messed up badly. An affair, an addiction, a season of walking completely away from faith. They come back. They repent. They're forgiven. But here's the tragedy. They never actually believe it. They live the rest of their life on the outside of grace, peeking in, never fully walking through the door God already opened. They serve out of guilt instead of love. They pray apologies instead of conversations. They see God as a disappointed parent instead of a father who ran to meet them while they were still far off. That image, the father running toward the prodigal son before the son even finishes his apology speech. That's not a metaphor for how God tolerates you. That's a picture of how He pursues you. But most people miss this part. The older brother in that same story never left home, never sinned outwardly the way his brother did, and yet he was the one standing outside the party, bitter, unable to receive grace for himself, or celebrate it in someone else. Sometimes the lie about your identity isn't "I'm too far gone." Sometimes it's, "I have to earn what's already free." Here's why this is spiritually dangerous. A wrong identity produces a wrong life. If you believe you're unworthy, you'll make choices that confirm it. If you believe you're only as valuable as your last mistake, you'll live small, hide big, and settle for far less than what God actually planned for you. You cannot walk in the fullness of your calling while secretly believing you don't deserve it. The fix is simple to say and hard to live. Stop negotiating with grace. You are not what you did. You are not what was done to you. You are who God says you are. Chosen, loved, redeemed, not because you earned it, but because He decided it. Say that out loud today, even if it feels like a lie at first. Faith often starts by declaring truth before it fully feels true, but it gets deeper still. Let's talk about the fourth reason. God sent you here because you've been praying for change, but you've been unwilling to change the one thing that's actually blocking it. I want you to really sit with this one, because most people pray big prayers. God, breakthrough. God, open doors. God, heal my marriage. God, restore what's broken. But somewhere in the middle of that prayer, there's a small, quiet compromise they've refused to let go of. A relationship that has to end. A habit that has to die. A grudge that has to be released. And instead of dealing with it, they keep praying around it, hoping God will move despite it, instead of asking whether that very thing is what's standing in the way. Picture a man praying for financial breakthrough every single night, while refusing to deal with the resentment he carries toward his father, resentment that's shaped every financial decision he's made, out of fear and control instead of faith. He wants the blessing without the surrender. He wants the harvest without pulling up the weed. This isn't a name it and claim it gimmick. This is about honesty. King David understood this when he prayed, "Search me, God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me. Notice he didn't just ask for blessing. He invited examination. That's rare. Most of us pray for God to move mountains while quietly hoping. He won't look too closely at the one buried in our own hearts. This is where it becomes dangerous, because unaddressed sin doesn't just sit still, it grows roots. It shapes your decisions without you even realizing it. You think you're waiting on God, when really, God is waiting on you. The fix is uncomfortable but freeing. Ask him the question David asked. Search me, not with fear, but with courage. Because whatever he reveals, he's already ready to heal. Now, here's the fifth reason. And if you've made it this far, I don't think it's an accident either. God sent you here because he knows you're closer to your breakthrough crew than you feel like you are. And he needed you to hear that before you gave up. This might be the point where something in your chest tightens a little, because maybe that's exactly where you are. Not far from God, just far from feeling his presence. Not without faith, just running on fumes of it. Maybe you've been praying the same prayer for years, and the silence has started to feel like rejection instead of timing. Elijah felt this. After one of the greatest spiritual victories of his life, fire falling from heaven, false prophets defeated, he collapsed under a tree and asked God to let him die. Not because he lost his faith completely, but because he was exhausted in a way prayer alone hadn't touched yet. And God didn't scold him. He didn't quote him a verse about faith. He let him sleep. He fed him. And then, only then, he spoke in a whisper, not in the fire or the wind or the earthquake, but in the quiet. Most people miss this part completely. Sometimes the breakthrough isn't a miracle you're waiting for. Sometimes it's permission to rest that you've been too proud or too tired to accept. And sometimes, right on the other side of your lowest, most honest moment, not your most impressive, put-together moment, is where God finally speaks the thing you've been needing to hear. If you feel like giving up right now, this is your whisper. You are closer than you think. Don't quit in the dark right before the dawn. Here's the sixth reason, and it's the one that ties everything else together. God sent you here, because your life is not just about you. Somewhere out there, maybe someone in your family, your future spouse, your children not yet born, a stranger you haven't met yet, is connected to whether or not you say yes to what God is stirring in you right now. Your obedience is never isolated. It ripples. Esther wasn't just saved for her own comfort in the palace. She was positioned for such a time as this, for the sake of an entire people who didn't even know her name yet. You might be watching this thinking, your life is small, your faith is shaky, your influence is nothing. But what if the very struggle you're walking through right now is training you for someone else's rescue later? What if your healing becomes someone else's hope? That should change how you see this season. It's not just about you getting through it. It's about who's watching, who's waiting, who's next. This is where the tension builds. Because if that's true, and I believe it is, then staying stuck, staying silent, staying comfortable isn't a neutral choice. It has a cost beyond you. The fix? Stop asking only, what do I get out of this? Start asking, who is this for? That shift alone can pull you out of self-pity and into purpose. I told you this wouldn't be a soft video. And here we are, near the end. And I still haven't let you off easy. Because I care more about you actually hearing this than about you feeling comfortable for the next 30 seconds. If any part of this touched something real in you, don't scroll past it and forget it in an hour. This might genuinely be the moment God is trying to interrupt your life. So do something with it. Comment one word right now. Just one that describes what you're facing. Fear, guilt, doubt, exhaustion, hope. Whatever it is, say it. Not for me, for you. Because naming it out loud in front of witnesses is often the first step toward actually dealing with it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this exact message today, someone who's been running, someone who's been busy but distant, someone drowning in shame they've refused to hand over, send this to them right now, before you forget, before the moment passes. You might be the reason God sent this to them, and if this channel has been speaking to something real in your life, stay. Subscribe. Not because a channel needs numbers, but because sometimes God uses ordinary things, ordinary videos, ordinary moments like this one, to keep pulling you back to himself, week after week, until you finally stop drifting. Before you go, I want you to close your eyes for just a second, wherever you are, and say this, even quietly, even just in your heart. God, I don't fully understand why I found this today, but I believe you do. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of performing. I'm tired of believing lies about who I am. Search me. Show me what's really there. And give me the courage to stop avoiding what you've been asking me to face. I don't want to walk away from this, the same person I was 5 minutes ago. If you meant that, even a little, something just shifted. Not because of this video, because of him. You didn't stumble onto this by accident. You were sent here. The only question left is what you're going to do with it.